We act like air conditioning was invented in the 20th century. It wasn't. Long before electricity, people in some of the harshest climates on Earth kept their homes cool in brutal heat, warm in freezing winters. And in one case, they made ice. In a desert, with no power of any kind. I'm an architect, and this is the part that humbles me. No compressors, no refrigerant, no grid. Just a mastery of four free forces: wind, water, mass, and the cold of the night sky. Today I'll walk you through the whole toolkit, one building at a time, and why engineers are now bolting these tricks back onto glass towers. Cool the air, freeze water, heat the floor. All of it on zero electricity. Here's how the old builders did it. Before the buildings, the mindset, because this is the part we lost. A modern air conditioner fights the outside. It's hot out, so we burn energy to brute force a box of cold air and dump the waste heat into the street. The old builders did the opposite. They asked, what is this climate already giving me for free? In the desert, that's a reliable wind, a cold, clear night sky, dry air that loves to evaporate water, and heavy earth that stays cool. Every technique you're about to see is just a building shaped to harvest one of those forces and aim it at a human being. No fuel, no fight, just geometry pointed at physics. Keep that frame in your head. Start in the deserts of Iran, where every old house wears a tall, chimney-like tower on its roof. It's called a badger, a windcatcher, an air conditioner with no moving parts and no off switch. The tower rises out of the still, hot air near the ground into the cleaner breeze higher up. Its open mouth, sometimes split into several shafts facing different directions, catches wind from wherever it's blowing and funnels it straight down into the rooms below. Now the clever half. The same tower works on a dead calm day. On a still afternoon, the air inside the shaft, baked by the sun on the tower walls, gets hot, light, and rises. So the windcatcher flips into a chimney, sucking stale warm air up and out and pulling fresh air in low. A pump that runs on either wind or sun, whichever the day hands it. The building inhales and exhales on its own. And it scales. Walk through the old city of Yazd, and the skyline is a forest of these towers, each one a lung for the house beneath it. On its own, a windcatcher buys you maybe 4 to 6 degrees, real but modest. The masterstroke is what you connect it to. In the hottest towns, the builders didn't feed the tower ordinary outside air. They ran the incoming breeze down across cold underground water first, and that is the next building. Hold that thought. To understand the cooling, you have to go underground, because almost every trick in this episode secretly runs on the same hidden machine. It's called a qanat, an underground aqueduct, one of the oldest pieces of infrastructure humans ever built. Some roughly 3,000 years old, 1000 BC. The idea is simple. Out at the foot of the mountains, there's groundwater. The builders dug a tunnel from it, sloping down at a whisper of a gradient, just steep enough for water to walk downhill to a town with no river. No pumps, no power. A tunnel cut so precisely that water flows the entire distance on its own. Most ran under 5 kilometers, but one near Kerman has been measured at around 70 kilometers. They dug by hand, sinking vertical shafts to haul out spoil. Which is why, from the air, a qanat looks like a dotted line of craters across the empty desert. And here's why it matters for cooling. That tunnel doesn't just carry water, it carries cold. Deep underground, away from the sun, the water and air stay cool all summer. So a house over a qanat has a permanent reservoir of chilled air and water right beneath its floor. Now connect the two, pull the windcatcher's breeze down across the cold qanat water before the room, and the air arrives genuinely cold. Done well, that pairing drops the indoor temperature by around 10 degrees Celsius. A tower, a tunnel, and the wind, an air conditioner built out of geography. Now the one that sounds like a hoax. In those same deserts, the Persians didn't just cool their houses, They manufactured ice, with no machine at all. The building is called a yakhchal, literally ice pit. Above ground, it's a huge conical dome of thick mud brick, sometimes around 18 meters tall. Below ground, a deep, insulated pit. And the walls aren't ordinary mud. They're sarouj, a mortar of sand, clay, lime, ash, goat hair, and egg white, tough and almost waterproof. Here's the trick: pure physics. The same night sky cooling will keep meeting. On a clear desert night, the dry sky overhead is bitterly cold. So anything left exposed radiates its heat upward into space and chills below the surrounding air. The builders ran long, shallow pools beside the yakhchal, shaded all day by a tall wall, sometimes 50 meters long and up to 10 meters high, so the sun never touched the water. Then on cold, clear nights, those pools would freeze, even when the air never quite hit freezing, because they dumped their heat straight into the black sky. At dawn, before the sun could win it back, workers harvested the slabs, carried them into the deep pit, and packed them in straw. And the payoff: that ice survived the whole desert summer, the thick dome and buried pit holding the cold in. Cold drinks, sharbat, and frozen faluda, in July, in the desert, well over 2,000 years ago. Not shipped from a colder country, made on site, out of nothing but a clear night. Move west, into the heat of Cairo, and the obsession shifts from the roof to the window. And a window, in a hot climate, is a genuine problem. A bare opening lets in glare, dust, and a wall of radiant heat. But seal it up and you lose your light and your breeze. Islamic builders solved that contradiction with the mashrabiya, a screen of hundreds of small turned wood pieces slotted into dazzling geometric lattices with no glass at all. Watch how many jobs one screen does at once. First, shade. The dense lattice blocks the hard direct sun and kills the glare, while the gaps still let you see the street. Luminous, never harsh. Second, airflow. The holes break a gusty wind into a gentle, filtered, even draft. Third, humidity. And this is the cooling. The wood is hygroscopic. Overnight it drinks moisture from the air, and by day, as warm air passes through, that moisture evaporates and cools the breeze. And builders pushed it further, setting porous clay jars of water right in the airflow behind the screen. So the incoming air skimmed the wet clay, evaporated off it, and arrived measurably cooler. Fourth, privacy. You can see out, but the bright street can't see in. One carved screen, shading, ventilating, cooling, and giving privacy, all passively. Now put it next to what we replaced it with: a sheet of plate glass that traps heat like a greenhouse and does nothing but sit there. The mashrabiya isn't decoration with a view. It's a climate device that happens to be beautiful. So far, every trick has been a single device. But the oldest move of all is the shape of the whole house, so quiet you'd walk right past it. The courtyard. In a traditional desert house, the rooms don't face the street. They face inward, around an open court, often with a small pool and a single tree. And the walls are thick, heavy adobe or stone, often 40 to 60 centimeters. That mass is the engine. Stone and mud are slow to heat up, so the brutal afternoon sun spends hours soaking through the wall. And by the time that heat reaches the inside surface, it's the cool of the evening. The wall time shifts the day, so the rooms peak late and gently, instead of baking at noon. Then the courtyard takes the night shift. After dark, that open court, like the yakhchal pools, radiates its heat up to the cold, clear sky and chills. Cold air is heavy, so it sinks and pools in the court, a quiet reservoir of cool that seeps into the surrounding rooms through the night. And the tree and the pool add the last touch, shade by day, a slow trickle of evaporative cooling. Put it together and you get a house on a 24-hour rhythm. Thick walls absorb the day, the courtyard dumps heat to the sky at night, cold air settles where you sleep. No tower, no tunnel, no screen. Just mass, a hole in the middle, and the patience to let the night do the work. There's one more force we haven't used, and it's the most reliable of all. The Earth itself. Dig down a few meters, and the ground holds a steady, cool temperature year-round. So in the heat of northwest India, builders did something astonishing. They built downward. These are stepwells, balises, and at first glance they're just wells for water. But they're inverted buildings. Instead of a tower you go up, this is a temple you go down, flight after flight of stairs and shaded galleries, descending stories into the earth toward dark water. And as you descend, two things happen. You drop out of the sun into deep, permanent shade, and you sink into the cool, stable temperature of the ground. By the lowest level, the air is genuinely cold, just above the water, where evaporation chills it further. So the stepwell wasn't only where you fetched water. It's where the whole village came to escape the heat, to rest in the cool dark on a furnace of an afternoon. Architecture you descend into the earth to find. And this one isn't just history. In Jaipur, where summers blow past 45 degrees, a modern building called the Pearl Academy borrowed exactly this idea, scooped into the ground around a sunken courtyard and pool. And it sits around 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the street outside, on a fraction of the cooling energy. A medieval water well turned into a 21st century air conditioning strategy, which is the whole point of this channel. So let's pull it together. One last building, because cooling is only half the battle, and the Romans cracked the other half 2,000 years ago. It's called a hypocaust, and it is, flatly, the world's first central heating. The floor of a Roman bath or a wealthy villa wasn't sitting on the ground. It was lifted up on hundreds of little brick pillars, the pili, leaving an open cavity, a hidden basement of air under the entire room. At one side sat a furnace, the prefernium, stoked constantly. Its hot gases and smoke poured into that cavity and spread beneath the whole floor. And then, instead of leaking away, that heat rose up through hollow clay tiles built into the walls, the tubuli, warming floor and walls together, evenly, from every surface at once. Think how clever that is. No open fire in the living space, so no smoke, no soot, no flames near people, and no single scorching hotspot. Just gentle radiant warmth rising through stone, the whole room a warm surface. And it's the same idea as the underfloor heating people pay a fortune for today. Warm the mass, let the mass warm you. The Romans even ran a cruder version up the walls of their hottest rooms to make a sauna. We didn't invent radiant heating. We rediscovered it, and finally got the smoke out of the room, which closes the loop on the whole toolkit. 7 buildings, and not a single watt of electricity between them. Not one fought the weather with brute force. The windcatcher used wind that was already blowing. The qanat carried cold up from underground. The yakhchal stole the cold of the open night sky and froze water with it. The mashrabiya rode the breeze. The courtyard used heavy mass and a clear sky. The stepwell sank into the cool earth. The hypocaust squeezed every last calorie out of a fire. Each one read the climate it was stuck with and turned that climate's own forces into comfort. We forgot most of this when cheap electricity made it lazy to care. But as energy gets expensive and the planet gets hotter, engineers are bolting windcatchers onto new towers and reviving night sky and ground cooling. Because the old physics never stopped working. The ancients weren't powerless. They were paying attention. So here's the test I'll leave you with. Next time you walk into a building and the air feels right, ask the only question that matters. Is the building working, or is a machine working for it, burning power out of sight to cover for a design that ignored the sky, the wind, and the ground? Once you can see that difference, you can't unsee it. That's the whole job, looking at the built world and asking how it actually works. If that's your kind of question, the channel is full of these. Stick around, and I'll keep taking buildings apart with you.